Hello there. I've been wanting to do an intro in front of my Christmas tree for like the past month. I've had this up since Halloween. I know it's unacceptable to some people to put Christmas decorations up at that time, but I'm just really excited for Christmas. I was gonna do an intro a couple weeks ago, but then my lights went out and I was really sad. So I ended up having to take all of my ornaments off, getting new lights, and then putting them all back on. But anyway, today I'm going to be doing a tutorial of how to paint Starry Night. Now, I've already done this painting before with craft paint, but I just decided to do some watercolor and gouache and just change the colors up a little bit just because I wanted to have some fun. But if you do want to use the original colors of the piece, feel free to just use blues and just ignore the colors I'm using. Anyway, let's get down to the video. Hey guys, it's me on voiceover. So, the first thing I did was I got my Canson mixed media sketchbook and I flipped to an empty page. Now, when you are working with watercolor and gouache, it's recommended to use watercolor paper just because that's the best fit. But Canson mixed media paper has done well for me in the past, and since I'm running low on watercolor paper, I just decided to go in my sketchbook. The first thing I did before I started this gouache painting was I had a watercolor underpainting of Yellow Ochre. For this, I decided to use Jack Richardson's Yarka watercolors for this piece. The reason why I decided to do an underpainting of watercolor instead of gouache is that while gouache can layer in colors, I was just worried that it was too opaque, that it wouldn't be able to layer the way I wanted it to, and it would show through almost. Because it is an underpainting, you don't have to worry about distributing the pigment evenly across the page. Just make sure that you cover the whole page in color and you should be good. Before you start to actually paint, make sure that the page is completely dry before you do so. I decided to take a short piano break and practice for my next lesson while I waited for the page to dry. After the page was dry, the next thing I did was observe the original Starry Night painting and outline the basic shapes onto my page using white gouache. I did not realize until I started to edit the video that it's kind of hard to see what I painted, so I apologize and hope you can follow along in the video as best as you can. However, if you just observe the shapes in the original Starry Night painting, you should not have too much trouble outlining it. After I was done outlining the piece, I already had some yellow gouache on my palette paper. Gouache is really similar to watercolor. Basically, it's opaque watercolor, so that means it can actually be reactivated when it becomes wet. So even though it was dry, I just took a little bit of water and re-wet it, and then I started applying the yellow on the inside of the stars. I feel like gouache is one of those mediums that artists don't really talk about. I personally had never heard of it until maybe last year. I would say gouache is my number one favorite kind of medium I use besides colored pencils. I just love how it dries in a matte finish. It's opaque, but it acts like watercolors. While I do love watercolors, I don't really like how they're transparent sometimes, but I just love watercolors because of how they act on the paper. Even though it seems like you don't have much control, it almost feels like you have more control because of how, I don't know, just how smooth it glides on the paper. But since I don't like how it's transparent, that's why I really love gouache. Now, using the yellow gouache, I just kind of did some short brush strokes around the stars and continued outward until they were the size I wanted it to be. I also ended up adding in a bit of the darker yellow in the center of the stars because as I was painting the brush strokes around the stars, I realized that it looked really similar and I kind of wanted to differentiate and make it more noticeable where the center of the star was. And just remember that you don't have to do the painting exactly how the original is. You can interpret it in your own way and, paint it however you wish you want it to be. Like this piece, I'm not going to be doing the original colors, I'm going to be doing some pink and purple colors. However, if you do want to make yours as similar to Vincent van Gogh's as possible, you can use different shades of blue by simply having the original color, mixing it in with white or black to just get a darker color. Or if you have gouache that is already different colors of blue, you can just use that too if you want. Using my new shade of pink, I painted some brush strokes around all of the stars in the same fashion that I did with the yellow. Since I did want a bit of a variety of pinks, I had a darker pink and a lighter pink, which I just ended up mixing in some more white to make it lighter. But on another note, if you do not have gouache, another medium you can use as a substitute for this piece is craft paint. Not only does it dry in a matte finish, but it also is opaque, and you can layer it on top of each other in a very similar fashion that you can with gouache. I would say the only difference between the two mediums is that one is water-based and one isn't. So with gouache, if you're kind of getting that dry brush feel to the page, you can just simply wet it and the paint goes on smooth. If you do that with craft paint, it kind of thins it out in a way. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. Anyway, back onto the tutorial. After I was done painting the brush strokes around the stars with the pinks, I just decided to add in some purple. And I just applied it in the same way, just the only difference was I didn't apply quite so much purple as I did with the pink, and I think that's about it. I did want a bit of a variety to the purples as well, so I just had a darker purple and I had a lighter purple. After I was done painting that area, I let it dry for a bit, and then I ran over the area with the slightest bit of water on my brush just to kind of blend the colors out a little more. Once I got to the part where there were the kind of swirls in the sky, what I did was I thinned out the paint and lightened it as much as possible just to kind of bring a little more attention to it, just because it is a bit of a different visual aspect in the sky. While the paint strokes centered around the stars, the swirls in the sky kind of brought a bit of a more different dynamic. Honestly, Starry Night is a really easy piece. I don't really think you need to have special talent to be able to paint this. Now, I'm not saying Vincent van Gogh is not talented. He is so talented. I'm just saying, as long as you have a basic understanding of how the layout is, and you know how to pick up a paintbrush, and just follow the pattern he does, I think anyone is able to do this piece. I had a lot of fun doing this. It's just relaxing to sit down and paint. I've been drawing so much lately, and I haven't really gotten a chance to use my paints. I feel bad. I feel like they've neglected them or something. Also, if you notice this weird echo in the background now, it's because I'm sitting in the garage, because one of my cats has this problem where he needs to go in the garage because he thinks it's something interesting. So I have to set a timer and give him a little bit of recess before he has to come back inside. Anyway, I had to cut off some footage due to time, but what I did was I painted over my white outline with black, and then on the top layer I added some white and mixed in some pinks and purples. I did realize that as I mixed them, it kind of blended in too much with the sky, so I added in the tiniest bit of black just to differentiate the ground and the sky. Wait, did I say ground? I meant to say mountains, I'm sorry. Anyway, as I got more towards the bottom of the mountains and towards the village area, I just kind of painted freely and did pretty much what I wanted. Since I wasn't trying to make this look exactly like Van Gogh's Starry Night, I mean, obviously, with the colors and everything, but since I wasn't trying to make it look exactly the same, I wasn't too worried, and besides, it looks pretty good, I think. Looks pretty similar. But as always, if you do want to make it look exactly like Van Gogh's, or at least as close to possible, all you have to do is really just look at the painting and just mimic what he does. I feel like that sounds like terrible instructions, but really, it really isn't. For example, near the bottom of the mountains, there's kind of like crescent shapes, little circles, and I noticed that he mixed in a little bit of white paint with blue. So just do what you want, really. You are your own artist. You can interpret things however you want, so just don't worry about it. Besides, it wouldn't be super original unless you had a bit of your own spin to it, right? And I would say after that I was just about done. I did add the village at the bottom, and I kind of just ran over it roughly with the brush just to make it look almost a little foggy, I guess. But yeah. As always, if you guys don't follow my Instagrams, I have them both linked down below in the description box. If you want your artwork featured on my channel, just check out the details down below. And feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell because, as always, I am so bad with posting. And so, yeah, if you want to know exactly when I post, that would be a pretty good thing to do. I am trying to hit 200 subscribers, and I would really appreciate if you guys subscribed. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next video. Bye guys!